Hey guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is all about what is the bandwidth of a medical coder. And we're talking about like our stress levels and is this really a stressful field? If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue. I'm a medical coder. I have been a medical coder for over 10 years. I created my channel with the hope of sharing all the things that I know with all of you. So this is the stories, the tips, the tricks about medical coding. And if you haven't had a chance to, I hope you'll hit that subscribe button. I hope you hit the like button, and I hope that you will share this at the end if this video helps you. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so I had a email from a viewer asking me, is medical coding stressful? Can just anybody do it? What does it really take? That kind of thing. What are some of the things that stress me out? And I am pretty much, for the most part, I am a very positive person. Yes, I do have stressful days in this field, but my stress really sort of exists on different levels. For some people, it can be stressful because of the work environment. Sometimes, like in the office, it may be where you're housed with a bunch of women and you can't talk. I've heard complaints from some viewers about that. And then for others, it's that everybody talks too much. So, I mean, those are sort of things that stress people out. Something that stresses me out would be when I have taught a class and I've put a lot of effort into it, and then I still have providers that don't want to listen. And you will have those sometimes, and they're usually brand new people to me, and I'm trying to I have to work with them, and that it sort of stresses me out when they do that, when they don't want to listen, or when they see me and they immediately go into defensive mode and they just don't want to deal with the coders because they've had bad experiences with other coders. And so that's where my stress comes into play, because it's just like, I know not everybody is the same and not everybody gets trained the same. But fundamentally, if you know the foundation of medical coding, you should know already that there are things that you have to do. You have to be actively engaged with your providers. It's part of our ethics that you educate them when it is needed and that you have this open communication. And there's some people who refuse to do that. So that's where my stress comes into play, is that if other people were doing their job, this would not be an issue continually, or we wouldn't have providers who feel like coders are the enemy. That's where I get really irritated, because coders should not be seen as the enemy. Coders should be seen as the partner. And when I have to go over a lot of things, like basic fundamental things that other coders should have already taught that provider because they came from another facility or whatever, and then they tell me that they never knew. Well, they never knew because that coder was probably not as detailed as they should have been, or maybe their encounters were not being reviewed as closely. You know, it's just a number of things, but that does give me stress. And that's something that you're going to encounter, especially when you are in the field. You will find providers who are welcoming to you, who want to engage with you. Then you will find others that are not as willing to engage with you. I have been through both sides of the spectrum with providers. I have had providers who have insulted me, and without even knowing anything about me, have insulted me. And I mean, I just keep going, because the thing is, their feelings about me does not matter. Their personal feelings about me does not matter to me. What matters to me, and this is what changed my perception of stress in the work environment, was what matters to me is their documentation. Is their documentation on point with what's going on with this patient? And if it's not, then I need to put myself aside, and I need to do everything I can to get that provider back up to speed, because not every provider is going to be well trained as soon as they come to you. There are going to be some that are brand new. That's their first job. They're right straight out of residency, and this is their first time fully documenting on their own. And then you will get ones that have been there for years, and they are very set in their ways, and they don't want to listen to you. You know, I've had those where I had one in particular, and I still have him now. He started off very mean. I mean, very mean with me, very, very cold and very like, you know, and he didn't want to. He nothing. And I pride myself on being a provider's coder. You know what I mean? Like I really do pride myself on that. And he about broke me. I mean, you know, he did, because of the simple fact that everything that I did, jumping hoops, trying to get him to get on board with getting his documentation up to speed. I knew that he was doing the work. And he had remnants of the work in his documentation. He was just not being as detailed as he needed to be. And so that was where it was just like, okay, I really need to work with this guy. And he's like, I had a coder before you, and she never said anything about me, and she never said anything about this, and she always told me that I was good. I knew the coder that he had before me, and she was not detailed, and she was not as involved with this documentation as she should have been. And so when I started to actively try to court him, as far as like, look, here is what you're missing out on, because this detail should have been here. This detail should have been here, because you're telling me that this patient has an ulcer. Okay, well, what stage is this ulcer? What stage is this? What stage is that? And I said, this documentation is just not complete. I mean, I'm like literally looking at it and it's not complete. And there were so many queries that I had to send him to clarify what was he writing. And he's like, well, I never had to do this. I never, think that anything was wrong. And I said, yes, but I'm a fresh set of eyes and I'm looking at your documentation now, and let's get you on board with what you are supposed to be doing. And it took some time, but he finally came around. So there is a positive way to seeing things. It's not always about what is most stressful, because yes, you are going to have stressful days. There's going to be days when your boss will yell at you for no reason, and because they're having a bad day, or because something happened, or whatever the case may be. There's a bunch of different reasons. But what I've learned through the Arbinger Institute is that it's not about me, it's about them. It's everybody else and my response to them and how they are treating me. Because just because somebody gets upset with you does not mean that they're mad at you in particular, and doesn't mean that you are necessarily doing anything wrong. That is, what you really do need to start learning when you are in the field. And the other things that stress me out is when there are coders that have been instructed on proper coding application and proper rules and things like that, and they still insist that they are correct even though they are not correct. And they have been proven time and time again not to be correct. And the only reason that it frustrates me is when it directly impacts my providers, when they are around other providers who are doing the exact opposite of what they are supposed to be doing, and everybody's not on the same page. That's when I get irritated. That's the stressful part for me. Because because this person wants to be right, that's the thing too. When somebody insists on being right and you are not right, it is not correct. You know what I mean? So thankfully these things get caught on audits, but at the same time, it leads to a lot of, oh, she said, she said, she said. And when I have to insist that I need my providers to listen to me because I am the coder. They need to hear from one voice, not a slew of voices. They need to hear all the information from one voice, because how I explain things may be different from how somebody else explains things, maybe different from how you explain things, maybe different from how Sue Jane and Sally sees things. I need everybody to look and pay attention. For me, for my providers, I need them to pay attention when I am telling them something. And when there's so many other voices that want to get involved because there's a lot of chiefs and not enough Indians, that's when it becomes an issue for me. And that's the only really big thing that I can see for me that stresses me out when I see things like that. Because if people are not interpreting the rules properly, that's on them. But at the end of the day, I'm responsible for what I'm coding. I'm responsible for my provider's education. That's what I look at. Because in our ethics, it says that that we're responsible to do education with them when they're having like a lot of queries. If you have to keep querying your provider, clearly there's something that they're lacking or something that they don't know that they're supposed to be clarifying in the documentation. And that's the difference there. So yeah, that is stressful for me. But when everything is fine and everybody just leaves my clinics alone, then I'm okay. Then I'm not stressed out. But when you have situations like this, you have to maintain your professional bearing, in which I have been really good at, which I'm very happy for, because I have to still remind myself of my Arbinger Institute training. This is not about me. It is about that person. It is about whatever they're going through. However they feel about me it's not for me to care. I don't care what other people feel about me. If somebody at work doesn't like me, they don't like me. Okay, big deal. I don't like everybody that I work with either. So that's the thing. And it's all about being honest. But the thing is, can you still maintain your professional bearing? Yes. What is your mission? My mission when I go to work is not so that I can be friendly with people who don't like me, but it is to be there for my provider and to be at their disposal anytime they need me, because they're my focus. Not the co-workers, not all this other stuff, not the drama, because we are predominantly women in this field. And yes, whether anybody likes to admit it or not, there is drama when it comes to women, because women, and this is one thing that does stress me out. I will say this. It stresses me out because it's so unnecessary. It's unnecessary for women to see other women as competition. I'm not competing with anybody, period. I don't care who you are, okay? I am not competing with anybody. And that's what I have in my mind. But what irritates me is when there's women that are petty and that will make everything a competition. Everything's not a competition, my dear. You need to concentrate on yourself. You need to educate yourself. There's the difference between you and what you're worried about, and me and what I'm worried about. Me and what I'm worried about, more education and being there for my providers. That's what I'm worried about. So because of this, it has really brought my stress level a lot lower, okay? And it will if you go with it. But if you are confident, this will help you. And if you feel insecure, this is where you may have a little bit of trouble, because sometimes if women feel like they just need to compete with everybody all the time and they just want to be the best and they want to be this and they want to be that, I get it. But at the same time, what is that doing for you? Because you shouldn't be trying to push other people down. You need to be trying to build other people up. When I have coworkers, there's a lot of my coworkers that don't particularly care about the things that I do, because, it's just like, oh, she just thinks she knows everything. It's not that I think that I know everything. It's that I have taken the time, I've studied, and I always offer a helping hand. You see how I am quick to help people. You see how fast my response time is when people have questions. So imagine that when I'm at work and I have offered help. And believe it or not, some people get offended when you offer them help. And it's not that you're questioning whatever they're doing or whatever, but you're offering because you have experience. I've done that. I've offered because I have experience. And I don't need your help. Okay. All right. Just, I'm just trying to help you. If it was me and somebody said, hey, I have experience with this. If you ever need any help, oh my gosh, thank you. I need help because this isn't clear to me and I don't quite understand this. Oh, okay. Well, if you see here, see here, see here. I'm the type of person that I don't need to tell a woman that her crown is crooked. Okay, I will sit there and straighten her crown for her without letting anybody else know. That's the type of person I am. Unfortunately, that's not always the case. And some women will dislike you for stupid reasons. They'll dislike you because you have a fast car. They'll dislike you because of the way you dress. They'll dislike you because, you're single and free. You know what I mean? There is a myriad of reasons why people will not like you. And that's an irritating thing for me about this field. that there is that. But like I said, it's really all going to depend on how you look at everything and how you view what your purpose is there at work. If you can turn that thinking around of, gosh, I work in such a stressful environment, it's not the work, it's the people. If you can turn it around to think that you're not there for them, you're there for your providers, and focus and concentrate, on them, then you will be fine, because then you have changed what your trajectory of your energy is. You don't need to feed all that drama, because that drama is going to continue to be there. I've been dealing with drama for years, and it doesn't faze me anymore, because I know what the deal is. I know why sometimes I get attitude from people that I haven't done anything to. Right? Because I love my work. And you know, sometimes when you really love your work, people will hate you for it. You know, and so, oh well, I would rather be happy with what I do in my profession than to be miserable and complain all the time. Because I don't like to complain. I don't like to sit there and just think of, oh, I want to go home, and oh, I don't want to be here. If that is the attitude of anybody, then you need to find some other place to work. You know, because to me, I can't wait. I can't wait to get to my provider sometimes. And sometimes, yes, even when they hurt my feelings, I still can't wait to see them. And I can't wait till we have that moment of, now I get it, you know. And I do have a provider that he was really snappy with me one day, and he's fairly new to me, and he was just snappy. He was just like, nothing that I was saying was right, and everything that I was saying was wrong to him. And he was just convinced that I was there to give him a hard time. And I'm really trying hard, because he is throwing out every single insult at me, everything that he can. And I'm taking it. I'm taking it like a champ. I'm taking it, you know. I'm not saying anything to him. I am just letting him just, okay, you know. And then finally, you know, the fact that he said, I'm sorry. I have other things that I'm stressing out about. And I knew it. And I didn't take it personally. So then later, he comes up to me and he says, I finally get what you were saying. I said, oh, really? He goes, yeah. He goes, I think you'll be happy with my notes. And I go, oh, okay, you know. So this makes me feel good, because even though I went through that stressful thing, it is stressful to be yelled at. I'm not gonna lie, it was stressful, but it was just like, come on, guy, you know. But I still had to let him have that moment. I still had to be a part of it, okay? Because when you are a part of people's learning process, it's either gonna be like that, or it's gonna be like, now I get it, you know. You always want to hope that it's that now I get it sooner rather than later, you know. But when you have providers that just sort of need that moment of, you know, you're wrong, and, you know, no one ever said anything, and then when you're showing them and you're helping them and you're partnering with them, and then when they finally have that then you're like, that's what makes it all worth it to me. That, and then the fact that I see my providers accuracy in their documentation, in the way that they document, going up and better and more detailed. And then when I hear from providers who have left and gone to other facilities, and then I'll get a phone call or I'll get an email and it'll say, you know what, Blue, thank you for teaching me everything that you've taught me, because the coders here are so amazed that I know all of this stuff. And that, oh my gosh, even now, like, I'm trying to keep from getting teary-eyed, but it makes me so proud. And those are the things that I hold on to with everything that I have, because when something like that happens and it was all worth it, that's why I do it. That's why I deal with the little annoyances and things like that. That's what gives me the strength and energy to keep going. That's what it is. And that's the joy that I get out of work. and seeing their faces and being part of that, being a part of that partnership and being a part of that experience with them. And then when they finally get it, and it's just like, because it's an incredible thing to be a medical coder. Think about this. This is really an incredible thing. Somebody who has the education of like a stratospheric education, level of education, and somebody who has either a high school diploma or a GED and a certification as a medical coder. Some have their college degrees, yes, but we're talking about people who only have their certifications, okay? Somebody who has a high school diploma or a GED and their certification. And they are working with somebody with a stratospheric level of education. And if you can communicate with each other, and if you can get to that good point where you're both just, okay, we understand, we can communicate, because, people like that are highly intelligent and they are sometimes very hard to communicate with. But if you can get to that perfect level of communication, again, that is what makes an amazing team. It makes an amazing provider. It makes an amazing coder. And it makes a wonderful team. And that is why I do what I do. That's why I love being a medical coder. So all this other garbage, all these other, annoyances and other people, I don't worry about all that. I worry about them. And that's where my level of stress goes all the way down, because my energy is in them. And even when they make me mad and I get frustrated with them, just to see their face and just to be a part of that and just to be a part of their growth, that's amazing. I talked about a provider before. She worked in the neurology clinic, and I was a part of her production that went from really low to really high. And it was where it needed to be. She was underperforming because her coder did not take care of her before I got to her. And when I got a hold of her, and then it was all this back and forth, and you don't know what you're talking about, and I never had to do this before, and I've been here for years, and no one ever said. And I said, okay, fine, I have to take this. I just have to go with it. I have to work with it. And then finally, when I got her on track and I got her to be documenting appropriately as far as like what she was doing in better detail, and it was just so much better all the way around, and it was such an emotional moment when she tells me that her superiors were so happy with her. They were very proud of the progress that she had made, because she hadn't made progress in years because she did not know. She did not know. And that was such an incredible feeling. It's an incredible experience to be a part of that. And it was such my heart was just bursting that day when she told me that. And I was in tears. I wasn't in tears in front of her, but I went to my office because it's like when you're a parent and I'm not a parent, but it's like when you're a parent, and this is what I can imagine. And then your kid, you fight with them the whole way through school, and you want them to do their homework, and you want them to do all these things, and they finally do everything, and then they graduate high school, and then you're sitting there bawling because, your kid is walking across the stage. It's the same feeling. It is the same feeling, because you see them and they finally get it, and they're prepared, and you send them out into the world, or you send them to be with another coder, and everything is good, and their documentation is perfect, and everything they need, all those details are there, and you're just so proud. That's what I hold on to. So that is how I combat my stress. But yes, that is the bandwidth that you need. You need that level of, emphasis on continuing to learn and continuing to try to understand what it is that you're coding, and try to work with your providers and really dig deep to understand everything. Because when you get that, and then you have these experiences like this, I'm telling you, it's incredible. I'm going to wrap this one up because I'm sure you guys are like, whatever, Blue. But this was fun. This was a fun episode. Anyway, if you're interested, they're not official, but they are practices that I do on my Patreon channel. I do like crossword puzzles and I do little games and things like that about medical coding. So if you're interested, I have supporter levels to start off at just $1 per month, and you get access to all that. So I'll be leaving that link down in the description box below. So if you are a medical coder, a medical coding student, somebody curious about the fascinating world of medical coding, a provider or a nurse, I invite you to like and subscribe and follow me on my journey in medical coding. I will see y'all next time. Bye.